for coming. It's really wonderful to have alumni here from a range of different programs, campuses, LA, New York, London, living all over the world, and we're really excited to have our first event as part of our partnership with VOLTA, which we set up this year. And it's particularly exciting because it's under the new artistic directorship of Lee Cavaliere. And I don't know if people have had a chance to see the fair yet, but as you will see, he's done a phenomenal job of bringing together galleries from around the world, really expanding the reach of the fair, the diversity of galleries and of artists shown. And we're very grateful to Lee and his whole team for providing everybody with the passes to get in today, but also for taking time out of a very, very busy day to say a few words about your approach to the fair and then show us a few of your personal highlights. So I will say no more because you're the one we all want to hear from. So over to you, Lee.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet everyone. And yeah, I'm just here to. This is me working. I'm just hanging out here today, so it's nice. So thanks for coming and thanks for spending the time. So yeah, just a bit about me. So I'm Lee Cavaliere. I'm a director of VOLTA now. This is my first year. So I started in July last year, so this is the first time. So VOLTA's always been quite close to my heart. I used to have a gallery myself, so we used to do Art Basel and Frieze and thousands of fairs, so VOLTA was always the interesting one. So when we did Armory, we were next door to VOLTA, so I'd always go next door to find out what was interesting and new. And same goes for Art Basel. When we were doing Art Basel, I'd scooch out, run away and see VOLTA, because that's where the new and interesting stuff is. So yeah, when they said that, they approached me about being fair director, I was like, that sounds like a complete nightmare. But then they said it was VOLTA, and I was like, okay, I get that. Because I love the fair, and I love the fact it's built on this kind of idea of discovery. So we've been going now for 19 years in Basel, which is pretty phenomenal actually. A lot of fairs have fallen away over the years, and I think it's kind of a testament to just how interesting it is and how creative it is. It was founded by artists and gallerists originally, so it kind of retains some of that kind of creative freedom and that sense of kind of fun and discovery. We've got some galleries who I'll show you who are very established, but we've opened a new space downstairs, a new section called Firsts. My focus is it's as much on discovery as on why these things haven't been discovered yet. It's looking at the kind of dynamic around why certain voices, geographies, or stories have been neglected in the kind of the international art market, such as it is. So we've got 47 galleries from 24 different countries. Although it's the most international fair that VOLTA's done in the last 19 years, so a lot of that's down to my kind of global network, but it's also down to the global reach of VOLTA as a kind of a brand and as an idea. So Firsts is really to do with giving an opportunity for new galleries to enter the market, because it's quite difficult. It's expensive for a start, but it's also quite difficult to gain the kind of support that you need to get into a fair and understand what it is to do a fair and why would you do a fair. So we have it's a long conversation we have with each gallery to kind of select them, and why are they doing it, and who are they showing, and really have that kind of conversation. So we found an opportunity to give lower price booths. We basically did a deal with the venue and one of our partners to kind of lower the price of entry. Introduce you to Odds and Ends Gallery from Hong Kong. And this is their first time in Basel.
Yes.
And first time showing in Europe.
Yeah.
With a fair?
Yeah. Yes.
So I'll let you take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie.
I'm Fiona.
And
this is our artist, Amber.
Yes, this is Amber. We're the co-founders of Odds and Ends. We started the gallery around 2.5 years ago in Hong Kong. We are showing two artists here this time. Amber, who is a sculptor and also in general just an artist from Hong Kong. These sculptures and the works on paper are by her. And then the other works, paintings on wood, are by a Chinese-Canadian artist called Scott Sumi. So the gallery primarily works with, on paper we say we work with Asian diasporic artists. personally, we relate quite a lot to these artists because coming from Hong Kong, a lot of artists that we work with are Chinese by descent, but then you can find Cantonese people everywhere in the world. Scott is actually one of these examples. Since we're looking at his work, I'll talk a little bit about what we have and what we're presenting. You can see that we have a fairly colorful booth, but the narratives are actually quite similar. Scott works primarily with wood. Everything you see here are painted on wood, acrylic and vinyl emulsion. He has a street art background, so he actually started in graffiti, and you see a lot of the color works that he has are very much inspired by street art. We have here new works by him. These 3 pieces you see have Chinese characters in it. As I said, he is part of the Asian diasporic community in Canada, in Vancouver actually specifically. He used to, when he was a kid, he's a second generation Canadian there. So he was born and raised there, but his parents migrated to Canada. And as someone who was born and raised in Canada, he kind of lost contact with his mother tongue. He can't really speak the language per se, but he used to attend Sunday school. But being surrounded by people who studied, also only spoke English, he rarely had the chance to practice the language. But then now congratulations to him, he has a 3-month-old son, and it kind of prompted him to reevaluate his relationship to the language and how his culture can be passed on to the next generation if he himself is not too familiar with it either. So through this series, he's trying to refamiliarize himself with the language from a very visual standpoint. This piece specifically is called Forest Meditation. If anyone reads Chinese, this individual character means wood in Chinese. And the name, the kind of noun for forest is literally made up of 5 of these characters. So this is a very kind of cheeky way of playing on a very visual representation of forest look like, but from a very language point of view. These 2 skinny pieces, because as I said, he's from Vancouver, he is very much in touch with Indigenous culture, which is kind of very prevalent in Canada. Everyone is very well-versed in the history, well-versed in the culture. These 2 pieces resemble a little bit of a totem, which you can see actually everywhere in Vancouver. And since he grew up there, the visual language very much seeped into his artistic practice. And on this side are the sculptures and drawings by Amber. If you guys can come in and have a look, maybe a little bit in more detail of the drawings. So the sculptures and drawings by Amber are a lot more structured looking than the works of Scott. The concept that Amber has for this series is actually playground, children's playgrounds. The drawings you see on the walls are actually robot drawings. These are results of very extensive research that Amber has done using motion capture technology to capture how kids interact in playgrounds. So during COVID times, I'm not sure, it was the case in Hong Kong, as is probably the case in a lot of other places. Playgrounds and public spaces were restricted. So the way that the government in Hong Kong decided to prevent people from gathering and spreading COVID was to put a tape around the playground, which did nothing to keep out the kids because kids will find ways to play. And from that experience, Amber realized that there's nothing that can stop kids from playing. There's nothing that can govern how kids play. Even when you go to a very conventional playground, like a slide, kids will not go down the slide. They will find ways to climb and jump off things that they're not supposed to. So these drawings are a part of the research that she did, capturing how kids play in very unconventional ways. And using motion capture and AI technology, it has been translated into very minimalistic forms, which is the sculptures are the results of it. If you guys are interested, you can take a look at the video. It will translate it a little bit better.
To make these drawings.
The colors and everything are very much
it's
like something we had when we were
kids playgrounds.
Yes, exactly.
Ground steel is very much a material that's used in building monkey bars, building slides, and all these things. And the colors, the color choice, primary colors, also are trying to mimic the playground palette. So the whole booth in general is tied in very much by the concept of play and on color, and play in terms of the concept of child's play as well. Just trying to like brighten everyone's mood up a little bit nowadays. And kind of remind everyone that, you know, play, adults don't really know. I feel like adults, it's really hard to unlearn the rules. When we see a play structure, we will try to play according to the rules, but kids don't have that in them yet. Kids will find ways to play in very unconventional ways.
So again, first time in Basel, first time in Europe? No, London.
So this is our very first show in Basel. Very big deal for us. We're a very small gallery based in Lagos, Nigeria. And yeah, we're very excited. And we're showing two women artists. Erin Mitchell, she's an African American artist from Birmingham, Alabama. It's a southern state in the U.S. And she's a muralist, and she also works primarily, she makes quilts. It's sort of a whole southern pastime. And she uses these sort of southern iconographies. She centers a lot of her works around matriarchal figures, and she's also talking a lot about Afrofuturism. And yeah, she incorporates fabrics from all over West Africa, the U.S., Europe, and yeah, she's just basically positioning Black figures in free spaces, and you can just sort of see the movement in the works. And yeah, that's Erin. These two pieces are hers. This is called The Fly That Landed, The Fly from the Land That Bore Them. And
So Ethan is here?
Yeah, he's at our house. Yeah.
So Ethan Cohen Gallery, based in New York, long-term VOLTA exhibitor.
Yes.
So I'll allow Sasha to do the intro.
Welcome. This year we're kind of bringing a blend of African art and photorealism. This wall, there are paintings by Cavaliere, who is one of the world's leading photorealist painters from Israel. He's based out of New York. And this series of paintings deals with themes of romanticism, timeless beauties, women in nature. These are two models who he's worked with over the years, and yeah, I find them, you know, quite. You just can spend a lot of time looking at them. The amount of detail is just incredible. If you get up close, you start to see the brushstrokes, but from far away, obviously, people often make the mistake that it's a photograph. Then over here we have Cloudia, who has captured and captivated the art world for the last 4 or 5 years. He was the world's leading artist in sales by volume at auction in 2023, and I think it might have been first, second, or third in 2022. His work deals with childlike spirits and urban dreamscapes, and they're quite interesting. I think they're time capsules of our culture. He often layers magazines, newspapers, sometimes even stuffed animals, clothing, and it's almost like he's making us aware of maybe what we're prioritizing in the place of his subject matter, which is the abandoned youth. So they're sort of like his hopeful dreams. And then we have an artist from California. We can all squeeze in here. His name is Paul Payment, and I think it's very Basel appropriate. He deals with architecture and nature and kind of combines the two. Here, I'll actually take it off the wall. Bring it out. Yeah. Kind of creating different textures, right? There's like, he uses a miter saw to actually create elevated architectural shapes. It's quite interesting. I think it's lovely. He's also got an installation downstairs where he combines an automobile with an insect to kind of suggest, you know, there's no separation there either. And then, let's see. This piece here is by Vincent Micraziza, these are actually quite sentimental. It's a topography, right? But it's made out of ficus bark cloth, and he harvests it in this indigenous and sustainable way. If you create a slit on a ficus tree, and then you actually use a banana stem wedge, you can harvest ficus bark up to 40 times. It'll regenerate. And so it goes through a process of being boiled and then hammered and then sewn back together. And he is Tutsi, so in sewing the pieces of ficus bark cloth together, he's kind of creating healing, or trying to sort of reconcile with the past with maybe a more hopeful future.
Yeah,
right?
it's like he's from Rwanda, and it's like the echo he always said of the people that died there. There was a completely crazy time that they killed so many people. It's a beautiful, it's like Sasha said, it's better hope, and all this echo of these people with the hands and the feet.
Yeah, they've made their marks throughout time over the land, and just speaks to the fragility and sacredness of life, right? And then over here, we feel very lucky to have gotten our hands on some Namjin paints. These are his paintings that are sort of mixed media as well. And there's a connection to Africa, right? We had a show earlier this year where we combined tribal art, Abudia's artwork, Picasso's artwork, and Pake's artwork all together, and you can kind of see the link to Africa and how it inspires all of these artists' body of work. This is also, believe it or not, a work by Yigal. It's a portrait of Jean-Michel Basquiat that he has interpreted. He's not using a real painting in the background, but it's one that he sort of imagined that he could have made. And then this is, I guess, there's a pose with him in a football helmet that he used to inspire this image.
Final gallery for the tour, but do please, wander around and ask me any questions that you want about the fair in general as well. But I just wanted to introduce Gallery Delaive from Amsterdam. So, first time in Basel with VOLTA,
Yes.
done New York before. I'm really thrilled they're here, by the way, very excited. So I'll just have a Thomas who can tell you a bit about the exhibition and the artists.
Yes, my name is Thomas. I'm the assistant of Nico, who's the owner of the gallery, and it's our first time here. But the gallery has been around for a very long time. Already since the late 70s, it was started. And so what we show here is kind of an overview of the artists that were there, that Nico represented in the past, and the artists that came after, sort of in the early 2000s and even now. So, for example, one of the artists that Nico started with is Karel Appel. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a Dutch artist that was first part of the Cobra movement. And we have pieces that try to show the whole range of his career. So maybe you can later have a look, but we have here a drawing from 49, which is how he really got his start with the Cobra movement, and what he's initially most known for. But they kind of disbanded already after 3 years, and then he had 50 years more of art making after that, in which he continuously reinvented himself, made new pieces, but always with a very colorful, expressionist, sort of semi-expressionist style. And even around the corner you'll see some pieces, even a piece all the way up to 96. And we have some pieces from all the way, the latest part of his career. So these pieces here are all from 1990 and even 92, and he died just 2 years later in 94. He made these pieces when he was back in the United States. In between he had lived in Japan, in Paris, in different places. He had studios at this point in 5 different locations all over the world. But these pieces specifically he made in San Francisco while he was working on a commission for the Louvre. And in the beginning he got known for his sort of very open canvases. In the 60s he made what he called edge paintings, where he would take a huge piece of paper and only color the edges and leave the inside completely open. So he got very famous also for his use of negative space. Already from the late 50s on, but here in the 90s he's kind of filling the surface again, but still with his sort of explosive use of color that he's been working on for, at this point, for many years. gathering pigments from all over the world to get the highest saturation to really give the most sort of explosive color you can get. And here we have a sort of a selection of smaller pieces as well. Ayako Mukan is a Japanese painter, and people always think it's quite different from the sort of the more core of our roster, our art of St. Francis. But for Nico, when in the early 2000s, both his most important artists had died, he was looking for something new. And it was actually here at VOLTA where Takatsu Murakami had a stand where he showed people unknown artists, and one of them was Ayako Mukan. Back then he was 24 years old. And Nico liked it immediately, so he said, I'll give you a studio in Amsterdam, and you're just gonna work as much as you want, and I'll buy every single work. Back then they went for around 50 to 100 euros, he bought them in, and then around 6-7 years ago she skyrocketed to sort of enormous fame in Japan, and later in larger parts of Asia. So it's quite sort of a full circle for us to now be able to show her here again. And we still have a collection of around 130 pieces. And these are some, for example, this is very early, so this is 2008. And this is a bit more recent, 2018. And she paints with her hands. And for us, it might at first glance be a bit different than the St. Francis, but in the way to gravitate towards in the same way of, okay, it's intuitive, colorful, bright, maybe even active you could call it, but always with a sort of a dark edge, I like to say. It's not the girls aren't smiling that often.